Spanning the nerd world and feeding your fandom. It's time for the Down and Nerdy podcast. Here's your host, James Witham.
We're back, witches. It's episode 372 of the Down and Nerdy podcast. I'm James Witham, and I've been looking forward to season 2 of Motherland Fort Salem for, it seems like over a year now, right? Since we've had any new Motherland Fort Salem episodes, but they're coming back on June the 22nd, and I gotta tell you, I have got an all-star list of guests to talk about it. This week, Amalia Holm joins the show once again. Also, Demetria McKinney and Lyne Renee will join her to tease what's going to be coming up on Season 2 of Motherland Fort Salem on the Down and Nerdy podcast.
This is Summer Bishel from The Magicians, and you're listening to the Down and Nerdy podcast.
A new thread has emerged, and also a new season of Motherland Fort Salem, which is going to be starting on June the 22nd, which is a Tuesday, on Freeform, and I was lucky enough to be able to talk to the amazing Amalia Holm, Demetria McKinney, and Lyne Renee about this upcoming season. So here's that conversation. Demetria, Lyne, Amalia, how is everybody doing?
Awesome. They're doing great.
Getting ready for season 2. Really looking forward to it. Actually, there's a lot to unpack after the way last season ended. So, in the immediate fallout of the attack, and Amalia, for you, everything that happened with returning to the spree. So, just reset for us a little bit. Where are your characters as we're heading into season 2?
Well, my character was just surprisingly rescued from death, a designated death by Anacostia. So she helped Scylla escape, and Scylla got back to the spree house, realizing her boss is her supposed mother-in-law. And so she's left in a shock, but also has just gotten her life back, and we'll have to see how that unfolds and how to make that meaningful now that she's got a second chance. And if that maybe we'll have her reconsider some stuff.
Demetria, you want to go next?
Anacostia has just done the unthinkable. She released a spree member. Oh my goodness. Anacostia is in a space of rebellion a little bit. Not in a insidious or bad way, just she's no longer following the strict and narrow that she's been accustomed to. She's drifted a bit from her mother figure, which is General Alder. She's drifted away from the mentalities of the military. She's actually starting to look at Scylla as if she looked at what she could have been if she wasn't brought up the way that she was. So, with this new emerging threat, and with the threat that is in her mind becoming the Alder of it all, Anacostia is in a space of limbo. She is trying to figure out her next moves, but she understands that they have to be done solo in her intentions. They cannot be based on anybody else's thoughts or movements. She's got to get to the truth of it, and that's where her loyalties lie.
What do you think, Lyne?
To step in with that, because Anacostia is so important for Alder. I think in season 2 we get to see where it all starts to fall apart for Alder. First of all, Anacostia leaving her, going rogue, not being there by her side is a first. I think Anacostia is one of the only ones that she trusts fully. So for that to happen is quite an eye-opener. And it's not only that, but everybody's starting or seems to start to be questioning Alder and her motives. And the ancient enemy that she was convinced that was gone from this world is back. So she's almost forced to look at herself and ask herself the same questions that other people are asking around her.
Absolutely. Now, Amalia, you and I actually touched on this last season a little bit, but I wanted to bring Demetria in on this as well, because one of my favorite things about last season was that dynamic between Anacostia and Scylla, because I thought it was really interesting. And is that something that we could see maybe expand this season a little bit? And do you feel like they kind of understand each other a little bit better at this point?
I think there's an understanding that also comes with the rejection of that understanding. They don't want to be as alike as they may be, and that they discovered at the end of season 1. They're supposed to be opposites, and one has chosen the military way, and one has chosen the rebellion way, the outcast way. And you don't want to see yourself in your enemy. You want them to be someone separate that you don't have to empathize with. And so once they started to see that, things got a lot more complicated. And after what Anacostia did for Scylla, there's definitely something left unspoken. Like that, there's something they had to talk about and see what was that. And during season 2, there's definitely going to be one way or another that they can solve it. Or maybe they just make it more complicated. I don't know. What are you thinking, Demetria? What are you thinking, Anacostia?
You hit it right in the head, but I also want to add the element of, the military has never had a respect for the spree. The spree has never had a respect for the military. And like she said, seeing yourself in your enemy and understanding that it's really not that far-fetched. We're literally walking two sides of a line. And once you do that, once you understand that this is still a human being, this is still an intention, a little bit misled in its movement, but an intention that is very mimicking of your own, there can be a respect. And I think that what we start to see in this season 2 with Anacostia and Scylla is the respect. We may not always agree, but we respect each other.
And that's it. It's holding up a mirror, right? I mean, and I think all characters are starting to do that and getting to explore themselves by becoming the mirror and being mirrored.
Absolutely. And before I let you all go, in the trailer, it looks like there's a real effort to bring the army and the spree together to fight against the Camarilla. Now, that seems like a no-brainer to you and I probably, but under the circumstances, what makes that such a difficult decision to make? Is it optics? Is it lack of trust? Or is it kind of a good big pile of everything?
It's a big Mod Podge of all of it. The thing that we have been fighting so out loud, robustly, has been the spree. And so now to keep the optics to where they need to be for the humans, quote unquote, to be comfortable, we can't do this out loud. We can't let them know that we are facing the same threat. And at the same time, the enemy of our enemy has made us friends, or at least have to try to figure out alliances. So I think it's we've been fighting them, but we need them. We're all in this together, but we're divided. It's a bunch of different dynamics that really have to come under one tent somehow.
And I think it's a beautiful reflection on what's going on in the world right now, trying to deal with that divide, that constant division instead of coming together as a collective. So I think it's a beautiful reflection to what's going on in our world as well, and therefore it's necessary to tell the story.
Yeah, and what do you realize about yourself and about the other when you're forced to collaborate is also, an eternal human question.
And that's going to be really interesting to find out. Motherland Fort Salem Season 2 premieres Tuesday, June 22nd on Freeform. I can't wait. I know the Ryla fans can't wait because we got to figure out what's going on there too. It's Demetria McKinney, Lyne Renee, and Amalia Holm. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for keeping it down and dirty.
Yes.
Oh, I love that there are so many twists and turns and angles that need to be played ahead. And I mean, that we didn't even talk about, what's going on with Raelle and Abigail and what her story is now, the sacrifice that Tally made at the end of last season. There's so much to unpack here for Motherland Fort Salem. Season 2 begins on Tuesday, June the 22nd. Do not miss this. Make sure you're watching it on Freeform. Also next day on HULU as well. Again, thanks to Amalia Holm, Demetria McKinney, and Lyne Renee for joining me this week.